Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm being both my IT person and the presenter today, and I left my volume on the other computer, so I'm back. Great to have everybody here. Today we're going to have a question and answer at the end of my short presentation. So if you could post your questions down on the bottom of the screen. If you roll over the bottom, it'll have the little Q&A tab. Just click that, and then at the end I'll scroll through and we'll answer as many as we can. So I'm Matt Taylor. I've initially trained as a physio at the U.S. Army Baylor program and way back in 1980, then later studied yoga therapy and eventually returned and got my doctorate in focusing on yoga and pain. So that's kind of an orientation of who you're listening to and what I'm going to share today. So I want to share two simple principles with you today that are techniques that you can use now and going into the future. And that's the value of what we've tried to create, the team of us here at HealthFlix.online, is that we want each of these sessions to be something people can take away. So that's my aim, that's my goal. Let me know at the end if I satisfied that, if you would, please. So what we're going to do today, we think about rebooting our phone and our computer all the time, but do we ever take time to reboot ourselves? And I think that's the value of our devices, is that they both teach and quite literally they've trained us, right? All along, you've got to take care of them and you got to keep them rebooted and updated and that sort of thing. And so I apologize to my neuroscience friends, because technically the human nervous system works very differently than a computer. But in my 40 years of practice, as computers developed and as mobile devices developed, it was a very powerful teaching tool. So that's the format. So when I presented the other day, I screwed up on the screen share. It's my hope today that I've figured that out, and I think I have. So let's see if we can get this up on the screen. And it should look just like that. Check my other computer. It seems to say it's doing that. So away we go. Let's take a look at what we're going to talk about today. So you may have had that experience, if you're a Mac user, of having the deadly rainbow of death swirl on you and wonder what's going on, what's not quite right. Older folks or the people on the PCs, the famous blue screen of death, right? It's like not going to work. Things aren't functioning. What are you going to do? See how the system's already trained us to have an answer, right? And that just kind of leads to this poor guy's current state. And that might have been what you and I have experienced in the last couple of weeks as this whole terrible crisis is unfolding. It's just like, I'm not working like I usually do. The system's not working, and hitting the key over and over isn't doing it either. So that's what we're going to look at. And then finally, there's that, oh my goodness, I need to function at a high level and I'm getting the buffering sign. It's like, I am moving slow, right? So how's that apply to us as humans? Well, what happens is as we go through a high stress period like this, with actually in my lifetime unparalleled change and uncertainty, it's a drain on us. It's a big suck of our energy, but our system is designed to keep working on routines. It's more efficient. This is evolutionary advantage. But what happens is we drain ourselves down and we start to get our blue screens, our swirling rainbows of death, and it shows up a little different in a human, but it's the same idea. And what it's telling us is exactly what our phones have trained us to do when we get the blinking red bar of death, right? So that's what we're going to look at today, is see what that looks like in the human. And so, here's poor old Sisyphus just starting off, and Ernie says, or Bert, here with these guys, he said, that wasn't very nice, saying today is the first day of the rest of your life, Sisyphus. And that's kind of what it's starting to feel like, isn't it? Day after day, it's like, oh man, or Groundhog's Day from Bill Murray's movie, same old, same old. So it shows up in us in several different ways. One of them is mood sensitivity. You kind of know your baseline of who you are and how your mood is generally present. And now you start to see all sorts of fluctuations and screen flickers, and you're more testy, you're more withdrawn, you get angry easy, you you cry more, all symptoms that the system's under a lot of stress. There's also then, you might have anger flashes you never have. You might freeze up and shut down more than you did, or withdrawal even more than what your normal response would be. But again, these are just like your device telling you something's not right. Confusion, where it's hard to think clearly. You've got all these problems and things to coordinate, and you just can't sit down and process it like you would ordinarily. Again, that blue screen flickering at you. And of course, an elevated level of worry and anxiety, which is by definition what we're all in, because we don't know, but it's also, you have a sense of what your normal level of that might be. And when it starts to elevate, that suggests that it might be getting time to reboot. And then, of course, anyone with pain, or even now, if you hadn't had pain, you might be experiencing more pain. And that's another emergent factor when the system starts to buffer or starts to slow down and struggle with itself and not have capacity. Very often that generates a sense of threat or danger to us, and that can present as pain. Further, the deep sense of fatigue or an inappropriate sense of tiredness. You get up, you get doing things for an hour, and all of a sudden it feels like you go back to bed for the rest of the day. Not your normal routine. Again, what do the instruction manuals say? It might be time to reboot. And then, of course, with sleep factor, not only does the system might run slow, but it might run fast when you don't want it to. So it's hard to get to sleep or get back to wake up out of a sleep, and so, or stay asleep in the middle of the night. And so all those irregularities in our sleep function, which is funny because we use that terminology on our devices too. We put them to sleep. We can have them sleep for a certain amount. Shows up in us. And then finally, an inability to concentrate. You just can't keep your focus on things that you know are really important, or the conversation that's really important. And all of a sudden you realize, and that's, again, that blinking, buffering, blue screen telling you your system needs some care. You need to take care of that system. So the two practices we're going to do today, I've gone ahead and put them up as a PDF on my website. So if you just jot this down, or remember, it's easy enough, yogatherapy.com, and then the /reboot.pdf. And so that'll have the two practices. They're real simple, but it's kind of, again, if you happen to be in a state right now where you can't concentrate and focus, you've got that as backup so they can refer back to the notes easy enough. So yogatherapy.com /reboot.pdf. That'll get you back here. So let's take a look at these practices. The first one here is the standard that I used in my clinic. So the last 15 years of practice, I had a yoga-based clinic, and this was all of my equipment that was in there as a rehabilitation clinic. And so what Noelle's demonstrating here is a classic adaptation to a yoga pose that many of you, I'm sure, have seen. What I want to point out today is, and we're seeing these all over as everybody puts up their classes, and that this is a very standard one, but I've seen over the years things that make it much more effective, or that people do that don't quite set it up to an optimal source. So you get a full reboot. You might kind of get a bit of a refresher, but you don't get the whole system rebooted. So what are the elements here for this? So at home, you would want to find a nice firm surface, not too soft, so you can see how it keeps your spine in a nice long lengthened position there without sagging into the couch or the too soft mattress. But then the other things we want to look at is, number one, there under the blankets, what you put under the legs should be nice and firm and solid. 3 squishy pillows doesn't work, because then your body has to hold that. And it's amazing. You think, oh, if I lay in that position, I'll be relaxed. You won't be. And if you don't believe me, take my course from April 1st, and you'll find out that we have presets. Even when we lay down to relax, we still have motor patterns that we execute in preparation for that. So take a look at that class if you missed it. But in this case, nice firm stability there. So people will take a laundry basket, flip it over, put a pillow on it, get up on a firm, wide ottoman, or maybe 2 roller bags with a little blanket on top, but have it nice and firm, not soft and squishy. Otherwise, the hips are going to have to work. The second principle is it should be wide enough that the thighs and the knees can turn out slightly. And so I've seen lots in the last 2 weeks with everybody putting their courses up. They're doing this posture and they put it up on a chair, and their poor legs only have about this far. And so they sit there holding their pelvis like this while they're supposed to be relaxing. So it needs to be wide enough that the legs can comfortably roll out a bit and not feel like they're going to fall off the edges. So that's the second principle. The third principle is our wandering mind needs an anchor. And so I like to put a book, I have Peter Senge's, Otto Scharmer's book there, Presence, on her belly. But the task is to sustain your attention down on the book and just notice how it rises and falls like the surf at the sea. It's not you're breathing in and you're breathing out and you're breathing in and you're breathing out. The exercise is to pay attention to the movement of the book up and down. And what's interesting is if you didn't get to see Dr. Dan Siegel's presentation yesterday, these are all on our healthflix.online YouTube channel. He has this awareness wheel that he talks about, and this particular exercise makes use of that. So if you aren't familiar with that concept, after we're done here, go check that one out, because it really gives a nice deeper background on what we're talking about today. And so the goal is to keep your attention on the book and just notice as it goes up and down, but not make it go up or down or not make it go anywhere. Okay, so it's a non-striving reboot. And then the next, and if you don't have something there, the attention is hard enough to sustain on the book, but if you don't have an anchor, it's going to be all over the place. 4, the position of the hands is critical. People lay down and they go to relax and they turn their palms down, they hold onto the floor like they're going to fall off. Happens all the time. Hands are turned over comfortably, fingers are soft, shoulders are at rest but not at attention. Okay, so the arms are, so that's really key for keeping the reboot process underway. And then of course you want the head and the neck in a comfortable position. Excuse me. And that's the exercise. And so the directions for the exercise then are merely this: pay attention to the book. Every time your attention wanders, notice that it's left. Smile. And if you aren't sure about that smile part, next week tune into Shelley Prosko's on self-compassion, because that's a nice part of this practice. The smile adds that self-compassion part. And then when you come back to pay attention, so you score a point when you return your attention. That's success in the exercise. It's not being perfect. It's not sustaining your attention the whole time. It's noticing and returning is success. And then the dose on this, or the length of time to follow this reboot process. So you think Control, Alt, Delete, right? That's what you used to have to do on the PCs, or still do. That reboot process usually takes 10 minutes. Okay, so this is the dose is a 10-minute dose, and you can use this as often as you want. Longer isn't necessarily a lot better. 15 minutes is fine, maybe 20 minutes, but beyond that you've probably lost your gain on that. So check into, we've got lots of other courses on just restorative yoga postures and breathing techniques and that I would move on to. But this is the basic human reboots process that I used with patients. And what was incredible is when they get up off the table, their stiff hip would move different, their headache would be gone, their anxiety would be reduced, all sorts of things, because that's all being generated from this poor buffering blue screen single battery bar. And so the dose of 10 to 15 minutes seems to be sufficient. You can use it as often as you need, but daily would be a minimum, just like you recharge your phone or your tablets. Same thing with the human body. So that's our first one. So hopefully that's clear, and you can certainly post questions if something didn't make sense. But number 1, solid wide support for the legs. 2, legs gently apart. 3, an anchor of attention on the belly to keep the attention internally. That's that interoception, looking at the deep brain sensory maps rather than the more superficial ones. 4, the hands and the arms in a supported, comfortable position in the neck and the head supported and long and soft with the face, the key to the face, soft eyes, soft tongue, soft mouth, the whole complex. The ears are relaxed. That takes up a huge amount of the brain. And when we're over concentrating there, that's what drains the batteries and tends to lock the system up. So we want to just soften those organs of perception: tongue, nose, eyes, ears, skin. The whole thing relaxes. So that's the human reboot. Now, we've got lots of fun coming up on HealthFlix here. And so, like I said, take a look at Dr. Dan Siegel's yesterday. Next week, we've got Dr. Stephen Porges talking about this whole internal system that some of us have referenced already. He's got an amazing theory that he's built out, very practical. And his wife will later be talking, Dr. Carter will be talking about the positive effects of love as a way of rebooting. And then, like I said, Shelley's going to talk about self-compassion. So all of these, think of them as practices that plug your system in before it gets to the single battery bar, all right? And Nicole Schackenberger, one of our key organizers in this whole system, is got a beautiful thing on using voice and song and that to, again, build those battery bars back up. Satbir Kasla, who is the lead research person for the International Association of Yoga Therapists, that Harvard-based sleep division of medicine. He's got a great program on sleep, and there's much more. So when you're done here, be sure and look at next week's roster. And again, they're all get archived on YouTube. So lots of battery restoration, or how we all buy those chargers now to take along on our trips and that. That's what these programs are, and go ahead and check those out. Now, just one word of caution though. If you're anything like me, it's like, oh good, I'll do my reboot and then I'll get up and exhaust myself and work to complete totally fried and exhausted levels. So the word of caution is these aren't intended to let you keep abusing yourself. They actually, when you do them, you'll start to become more sensitive and empathic. You'll be able to feel for yourself, but not only for yourself, but for others. And you'll have a better sense of when it's time to plug in, instead of all of a sudden having that little battery bar pop up and surprise you. Okay, we want to learn to sense early on. So these techniques aren't intended to let you abuse yourself and keep pushing, but rather they're designed to bring you back to an awareness of both yourself and for others, so that we bring ourselves up in health during this crisis, but hopefully then it's a technique that improves society overall. So that's just my little word of caution. And then our next practice, I like this one because it's easy, but as it says on the slide, it seems kind of complicated. What it is a series of, in yoga, we use mudras, which are positionings of the hand to direct attention and sensation and awareness. Again, Dr. Siegel's talk yesterday about the wheel of awareness. That's exactly what mudras do. And that's why we see them on all of the statues coming out of Asia, whether it's a Buddhist tradition or a Hindu tradition or any of those, or the Christian tradition, lots of mudra positions for Jesus. And so the hands are so key. And so I like this second reboot because it's super simple, but it seems to be one that people can adapt to and do instantly and not have a problem. So this is what it looks like, and then I'll switch out of the screen and we'll go through the practice. So it's and these are courtesy of Joseph and Lillian LePage, who have a great book on mudras, and I wrote a section in that book on research around these. We don't have much yet, but they're really effective, I found, in the clinic. So we're going to bring our thumbs towards each other. We're going to point our thumbs up. We're going to point our thumbs out, palms up, and then we're going to hold our thumbs. Okay? And so they got long Sanskrit names. Don't worry about that. and I'm going to take you through these. So let's go ahead and bring you back to me, I hope. There I am. Good deal. Okay, now, what I invite you to do, in whatever position you're in, maybe scoot back just a little bit, get your spine supported just a little better. And if it's comfortable or possible, put your feet on the floor. Okay. And then I'm going to have you rest your hands on your lap, okay, or across your lap if you're lying down. Okay. And if it feels comfortable to you and it's safe, go ahead and let your eyes close or kind of half close. Don't worry, if you fall asleep, you needed the rest anyway. All right. And then without doing anything special with your hands, I just want you to bring your attention inward and sense the size and dimension and the location of where you perceive the movement of breath. So kind of leave the breath alone. Don't pull it in. Don't push it out. But just like you're kind of looking down on, checking in on a baby to see if it's napping, check in on your breathing process and just observe it without changing it. So you get where it seems to fill, where it seems to move, how much seems to come in, how much seems to go out. Okay. And then let's begin the practice. And so we'll begin the practice by having you bring both hands into a fist and stick your thumbs out. And then we're going to begin with the hands on the lap and the palms up. So your thumbs should be pointing away from each other. And don't white knuckle the fist, just so the fingers are closed. And the thumbs are pointing away from each other on your lap. And now sense the location, size, frequency of the breath now. Again, not touching it, not adjusting it, but just notice, did anything change? Did it get bigger? Did it get smaller? Did it move up or did it move down? Is it a little faster? Is it a little slower? Did it move to the front of your body or the back of your body? Just sensing and feeling where that's located, how it fills. And so this direction of attention has you plugged into the wall, okay? The little green batteries on there now. And then gently go ahead and take the hands, turn the thumbs up towards the ceiling with your pinkies resting on your lap. So the other fingers are still in a softly closed fist, but the thumbs are right up at the ceiling. And feel the size, location, frequency of the breath in this position. Is it different? Is it the same? Listen to the conversation. Oh, I must not be doing it right. It's the same, or oh, that's cool, or whatever, right? But just keeps bringing the attention back to attending to the location dimension. Excellent. And then nice and easy, turn the palms down, fingers still in a fist, and the thumbs now pointing towards each other, both hands resting on a thigh. And repeat. Location, pace, and then once you got a sense of what the breath is doing there, The green bars are starting to pile up on the battery. Just gently take your thumbs and bring them inside those fingers and cover the thumbs with your fingers, but don't give them a death squeeze. Just hold the thumbs, palms down on the lap. And watch what happens as the breath leaves the body. Does it extend just a little further? Does it shorten up? Letting it completely fall out. That's it. What part of the body is this located in? Is it deep down? Is it in the middle, around your center of your abdomen, up in the chest, up in the throat? And then if you haven't been quite sure if anything changed or anything was different, let's just try a little something. So go ahead and slip the thumbs back out. So lift the thumbs so they're pointing towards each other, and then turn the palms over so the back of the hands are on your thighs, thumbs are pointing out. Now where's the breath? What's the size of the breath? Did it go up? Did it go down? And then turn the palms down, thumbs pointing towards each other. Tuck the thumbs in. And what happened to the breath now? And then lengthen those thumbs back out. Turn the hands, pinkies on the thighs, the thumbs up towards the ceiling. And is that the same as when we turned the palms towards the ceiling a few seconds ago, or is this a little different again? And then thumbs out, palms on, up towards the ceiling, back of the hand on the thighs. Classically, this would be described as awareness up the spine, kind of an energizing, waking up, lifting up kind of experience. And now watch what happens. Turn the palms down, bring the thumbs into the fingers, and let's just rest the hands like this for about a minute. And just gently notice the location of the breath, the pace of the breath, the volume of the breath, the amount of effort or how much of the battery bar are you having to use to breathe right now. How much of that battery bar is pushing concerns, ideas, thoughts, plans. And after the next out breath, just release the thumbs from the fingers. Allow the hands to move into just a soft, open, gentle position. Kitten pause, as I described the other day. And then nice and easy, on the next in-breath, allow your eyes to open. The soft gaze. And notice in that couple-minute practice there, any difference in your battery bars. So feel like maybe you added one more. You got out of the red and into maybe got 2 green ones going there. And what's the pace of ideation thoughts? So you get the staccato machine gun, lots of ideas, or maybe they just slowed down just a little bit. Again, the opposite of that whole list of symptoms of needing a reboot. Good. And so that's the second of the practices. The first one, on your back, legs up. This one you can do anywhere with people not particularly being able to notice. I used to call it the meeting mudra because you could do it during a meeting that you were dying at. You could really refresh yourself while you survived it with your hands under the table. But that's a sample of another way. And like I said, we got a whole host of other processes and techniques. But it's if you take in mind that sense of treating ourselves as well as we treat our devices, and the need for plugging in time to time very intentionally. It's a skill, and a skill doesn't just show up. It takes practice. So be patient with yourself. But with practice over time, you'll find that you'll be able to speed up the reboot, sort of like getting a stronger cable to boot up your phone. But again, that caution, this isn't so that we can then go flog ourselves, but hopefully that'll make a nice change. Now, what I'd invite you to do, again, down on the question and answer tab there at the bottom, if you have a particular question, feel free to jot it in, and I'd be happy to entertain that. Again, these all go on to YouTube, and I offered you at the beginning the link for these 2 exercises, which was yogatherapy.com/reboot.pdf. And maybe you're all just chilled and let me see, here's a question coming in, get it over on the correct screen. Vanessa nicely shares she's yawning a lot during the mudra practice. Is this normal? Thank you, Vanessa. That's a great question. And that's the highest compliment to somebody teaching these, is that's the relaxation response. Okay. And so, it's like, yes, score. and what happened, it's funny because as you slow down, you start to get the rebooting started up. That's the deep natural reflex that we have, is the yawn. And so it's like, yes, I'm on the right path. So that's a great thing. And what it's going to do, though, is like I said before, when we do this practice, all of a sudden you're going to realize how friggin' tired you are. Okay, we're all exhausted, right? Because we got a load on us that is just incomparable to what most of us have lived through. And so but we're so tired we can't even yawn. Okay, so as the first bit of energy gets back in that battery bar, all of a sudden your system kind of blinks on and says, oh, I'm exhausted, and then you start to yawn. So great question. Thank you, Vanessa. Hazel says, I'm feeling energized now, but worried about hypomania. Hypomania. So I presume that's sluggishness, not being able to get anything done, that sort of thing, Hazel. Yeah, we get addicted to the acetylcholine and the cortisol and everything else. And so what we think of as our normal, that amped, and then of course we complement it with caffeine and sugar and all those kind of things. No, the opposite of hypomania. Hypermania? Manic? Is that what you mean? And so if it is, we'll see if she posts it there, but the thumbs out are energizing. So what that tells you is if it's not a comfortable feeling, is to stick with either thumbs towards each other or thumbs in the hands. Those will be much more sedating and relaxing, Hazel. And we all have different responses, but that's a common one. And so if it feels like a practice takes you in the wrong direction, either get rid of the practice or find a local teacher to give you guidance. But you can, that's what's neat about these, is they have general patterns, but there's lots of different ways to respond to it. And so I would, if you feel too energized, hypermanic, then yes, very much thumbs towards each other or thumbs in the hands would be a practice more appropriate for you. Oh, okay. So Hazel, I would suggest that you just, I would not do this practice until you have someone locally that can support you through a telehealth process or whatever. But I think the legs up on the chair should be very comfortable for you. But hold off on this one for now. And then Anonymous asks, as a provider, do you put hands on clients during any of these practices or prefer to use voice instruction only? As a physio, as a physical therapist who thought he could fix the world by moving all the parts in the right position, I have very highly skilled hands and very skilled hands, and they weren't fixing everything. So as a recovering physio, I like to call myself, I tend to do a minimal amount of hands on, at least initially, because when I do that, that implies that the source of the recovery is coming from me, versus empowered and directed by the person's own ability to attend in that. Certainly over a course of treatments, I might complement it with that, but at the beginning especially, I want to be sure the person sees how much they can get done by themselves. And that's what would happen. And in my practice, I didn't take insurance. It was all cash. And so something had to happen that first visit that would get them to sign up for the second one, right? And they'd been to all these places and everybody had done all these things on them and to them, and they weren't getting better. And then in my practice, and we would joke, it's like, oh, you're going to give me $175 for telling you to pay attention to breathing. But they would feel better and they'd be moving better, and all the things we assessed were different and function was enhanced. And so they signed up and they came back and they paid again. And so, yeah, I just caution on the hands that when we provide that, if we be sure to create context so they understand that this complements, and it's a complementary process versus the fixing process. So great question on this. Okay, any other questions? I think we've got all those in. If there aren't any other questions, again, this will be up on YouTube shortly. I do want to give a big shout out to this team. This is an incredible story. If you hadn't heard the story, 2 weeks ago, Heather emailed me and a couple of other people, the team of 8 of us or 9 of us, whatever it is right now, and said, gee, we ought to do something. And so we literally went from nothing to this amazing website and list of panelists, every single one of them donating their time. It's just been so exciting. And I guess this inspires me right now that maybe out of this whole process, we're going to generate this more abundant community-oriented approach. And so that's why we named it Global Wellness Community, to binge on techniques to support and take care of ourselves and those we care about, and hopefully those we care about ends up being everybody rather than our tribe. So do indulge, do binge on some more of the techniques. And I see Chris Bailey raising his hand. Hey, Chris, good to see you, bud. And the other thing we put on the website is if you feel like contributing to this process, we aren't taking in any funds, but we have a donation button for Doctors Without Borders. We thought, well, if people felt inspired to share back or whatever, let's have something that'll support the whole global response to this virus. And so that's there as well. So thank you for your time. And you can find me at yogatherapy.com or matthewjtaylor.com. Always willing to support and help in the future. So thanks so much. No more questions in. And be well, take care of you so you can take care of others, and hit that reboot process every day. Thanks very much.